Granny, it was said she was going to the permanent, gentleman. There's now in Granny's beta, it looks like it's going to do anything but go to the permanent. It's going to enable us new equipment, new compositions. Of course it's going to work with the Archonte. And it looks like he's gonna give one of the best teams to the Archonte, but it's just that he's got synergies with old characters, giving new teams or creating opportunities for carry. Zidro like Tartaglia and Hayato, which I think none of us would be waiting for. Thank you for enjoy and watch the video and channel. Thank you for all the love and support. Thank you for all the growth that is having, and remember that if you have new friends that are starting in Genshin, buy Genshin's output on Xbox, recommend the channel, pass the video to them, pass it through the groups, so that more people will see and I'll be uploading a video. I think before you see this video, I've already uploaded it. It's 7 tips to have a perfect account. Pass on that video because it's focused in medium and new players, especially those who have just returned or come to Genshin by the start. So pass him that video and you don't have to miss it. And if you're already active or Vendi 1 a day, to participate you only have to give like, subscribe with bell and comment to algorithm there in the comments. Leave something interesting that isn't written by now. The more you interact with all the videos on the channel, the shorts, the rest of the videos I'm on, the winners are always on the set. From the previous videos, 1 or 2 days or so in time as I set someone and tell them, congratulations, so let's go with what Granny does. Like this format because unlike most of the YouTube format, they leave you most important to the end. I just give you the video in the face at first with the strong. Let's say that like 5 stars is a dedicated support, again, of reactions from a single new set of melts on Frozen. Very expensive equipment, which to this day I am very sorry there is no more, that those pyros can melt on. The team would obviously settle for CITLALI as cryo. Could get more cryos and an additional hydro so that CITLALI plus the other hydro freeze the enemy and the pyros. What they do is vaporize or melt, and in some cases melt. This is very curious, and so far there was only one team that was based on this mechanics, and in fact was one of the first teams considered not only goal, but the best in the game in one of out, Genshin Impact, which is the core of National, i.e. Chonghyun, Xianglin, Shenchu and Bennett. And he's called National because if you notice they're all from China except Bennett, who's an infiltrator, but you know the grace with the name. And that team was based on that Chonghyun, which makes team characters imbue their normal cryo and Jinchu attacks, which applies a lot, Hydro. Because they made enemies always wet, not only by Jinchu, but frozen in some cases, and Xianglin out of the field vaporized all the blows and they melted them. Which, when the pyro melts for 2 damage, when the pyro vaporizes. That's why you usually see that pyros vaporize like Hu Tao vaporizing. Like Xianglin, who out of the field makes vaporized, but so far we didn't see. Pyro melts because it's for 2 and it's too bad, and these teams I've talked about. All of them on the channel, and some of you know of 2 cryos and 2 pyros. Bennett, Xianglin, Rosaria, Kaya, for example, are called inverse melts because the pyro is not doing that by. It's inverse because it's melting the cryo over the Kwai. Xianglin pyro application, and so jumps most cryo melts, which is by 1.5. And some of them do Xianglin for 2, with pyro melting. Well, I've never understood, and I didn't know this by 1/5 dive. By 2, there's a lot of videos because now, well, CITLALI is a character who enables these new compositions. That less the national team that already existed and was played since day 1 of the game has not. Enabled in some way, and CITLALI re-enables us both with characters, mainly futures and especially with Mavuika. Mavuika seems to be a carry that does something very similar to Alecino in field, but capable, can enable and function very well on these melt equipments, like, as I said in the intro, ancient characters such as Tartaglia, Ayato, or Gamin. And now, I'll tell you what Tartaglia and Ayato mean. Well, His skills and everything else as always, his normal attack doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It's elementary ability. Again, we go with a lot of text, but luckily, we've been watching it live, invited and welcome to the live ones that we've been watching all this much more in depth and with gameplays because there are beta gameplays here. On YouTube, I can't teach gameplays, and if you're eating, make the most of it. I forgot to comment at the beginning of the video, but if you're eating, make the most of it, make it very rich. Enjoy. A lot of the video, basically the elementary ability to secondings. It puts you in a state of noctambula blessing like all the characters of NATLAN. It makes you win some quiet spots that as we read all the skills make us earn points to. And there's a point where we have more points than we need, so the mechanics goes. A lot of text, let's not worry. Point number 1 of skill. It casts a shield that lasts 20 seconds, but it has a cooldown of 16, with which the cooldowns are already short. They are archontic cooldowns of which we talk. And the cooldown, attentive to the surprise, scale with the elementary mastery. CITLALI is a support that is going to go with elementary mastery. Not only goes with elementary mastery, but the NATLAN set will activate the parchment set, bringing it 40% of our elementary year itself, and if there is a melt, then the carry pyro will take 40% of the elementary year. With which, little joke as support in what already from base begins to give us. And now I explain everything. So yes, gentlemen, a shield that climbs with elementary mastery surprisingly. I think it's the first shield to scale with elementary mastery, and then it calls us apart. A little bug like Kinix Ahau, that this little bug is hitting with cryo. It's not a cryo CITLALI Xingqiu. There's a recurring hit that scales 30% of CITLALI's attack. Spoiler, the attack that has base is nefarious. It is one of the worst base attacks of the lowest of all. The game and this scaled to 30%, as you can see, is the same thing. It is totally useless. It's a climb of the lowest in the game in a skill. And it doesn't apply like Xingqiu. It's not that it's, how much does cryo get my mother of my life? See no who's doing a little cryo tap like that. Boom boom, and I think that more than you stick a lot cryo or that you apply cryo to freeze, you have to combine with another hydro character who puts a lot of hydro to remove the pyro from the enemy, and this extra hit, for now the enemy freezes and you can melt on it. It is not an incredible applicator, because the enemy freezes and is going to see us out of the field, and I see them in Hu Tao saying, "Oh Tao." Then Hu Tao melted. Well, in principle not, and now I explain why. Then you have the bug that hits cryo. You have the shield that scales with mastery, and both the shield and the Bichito last 20 seconds in the field, but the skill has 16 seconds of cooldown, only with which quite well. But it says that if you finish the noctambulism points, you're going to lose the little bug that goes. The elementary way is just this in principle, but it helps you a lot. And you'll say good, then it's going to. Triple master's degree, or it's going to hurt a little bit for her to melt the rest of the kit, but I would say that in principle for most players would have to build a CITLALI and triple mastery who wants it in quotation marks pre-farming that goes out set. Parchment with triple mastery with power recharge substats in principle. Now what do you do? The ulti? The ulti makes an initial hit that does have an abysmal scale, but the base attack of CITLALI is a bit bad, with which team is combined with Bennett to compensate for the attack. Well, maybe you're doing very good damage, but as I say, I'd recommend building a triple master's degree and not with cryo chalice and helmet probability of damage, because even if this scaling of the ulti is very big, is just a climb, and it's more what she gives like buffos to the team. You throw a very fat hit of 967, almost 1000% at talent 10 that you could melt it by 1.5, and then you do 3 strokes over 241%, which is also not bad, and these strokes also depend on the amount. Do you gain more points of noctambulism for the subject of skill? Elementary according to the enemies who hit and according to throwing the ulti? Do you have energy cost 60 and cooldown of 15, i.e. a moderate cost is not 80, which is very high, is not low, that there are costs of 40 and so on, but you have to look for recharge energy and cooldown? 15, the elementary skill has 16 with it, which having 15, 16, having 16 seconds of cooldown is adapting to all the teams in the game, and that it's fine, because elementary skill gives you 20 seconds of shield and 20 seconds of shield. The duration of the bug that goes banging then are ARCHON cooldowns, are cooldowns very good. And you'll say, okay, but then what else does the ulti nothing is? Let's throwing away the ulti, you earn more points so of Noctambulism and how you earn points of Noctambulism. Let's say a do or bash to throw it too. Is a shield plus a little bug that hits cryo plus this ulti, which is a pretty big nuke with a interesting damage, but you are not going to build Sit the damage first talent of Ascension. When you are in Noctambular Blessing and a frozen or melted reaction is activated, here is what. That told you of this function. The enemies are reduced to their resistance, pyro and idrum 20% and CITLALI wins 16 Noctambulism points every 8 seconds, i.e. in 16 seconds of rotation. That big is the cooldown of the elemental. You earn 32 points of extra Noctambulism, and this is so that, as I said, when you keep Noctambulism points, the bug keeps hitting. When he loses the Noctambulism points, you lose the bug hitting cryo. This is interesting. This 20% reduction of resistance to enemies is little enough, but it already enables you these compositions that I was just telling you, and that a carry pyro or hydro would do a little more damage to a carry cryo. CITLALI is going to play herself, and maybe with cryo consonants, I don't know, it will have to prove. Teams herself, I say, as cryo of the second team Ascent talent, the damage of your elementary skill and your ulti increase in elementary by 90% of the mastery of CITLALI. Spoiler is super little, that is neither worry, and a 2400 of the mastery of CITLALI, the initial damage of your ulti, and additionally when you activate the burst Noctambulo Sit, the lie wins 4 points of you. Night Soul is saying more points for the bug to keep hitting off the field, that I think is this. On the one hand, a small bite for people to say I'm going to prove it to harm, in my opinion, continues. Being better triple mastery plus it's easier to build triple mastery. Let me video commence. If all items of master parchment have been burned by me, I've done all the parchment mastery, said it won't serve me, and I've burned it. I'm sorry. It will surely happen to keep everything you can of master parchment, and then these 2400 damage. Based on your master's degree in the ulti, I think it's more than anything for there to be people who build a team dedicated only to CITLALI, and let's see showcase of these that we like in the Yake. Mirage game CITLALI made 5 million such, but I think that the natural function of CITLALI does not go to be built with Cryo Chalice and Probability Helmet and try to get it out of the nuke field. Your ulti doing a lot of damage, your natural function is going to be carrying the triple mastery for a shield. Very strong, and for the comb that I now explain, it was going to be very interesting and very strong in fact, until I'd come to recommend it. But this talent of additional damage based on master's degree, I already say, is more than anything for an isolated situation, for an isolated team where you make everything work for CITLALI and make a new KO or a showcase, or let's say that a show literally, because to create content, to make a good 1-minute video is short. But it's not, let's say, a natural rotation isn't a team that is comfortable or has real synergies, but there's that tool, let's say that tool, for CITLALI to do incredible damage out of playing it by doing its normal supporting role. That's CITLALI, and you'll say now it's okay, because if you notice it's a little bit like made to play teams of a whitey. Melted, not so that some pyro can melt, because now is when comes how strong the constellations. Maybe I warm up and bag C2 for you to see the tests and so on. For example, I don't care about the ski, but I do not like it, but maybe I'll warm up. And the C2 bag says Constellation first, you're going to win 10 stacks. And if there's a noctimal explosion in Team 13 means 13. All the time be 10 plus 3, 13. And these stacks can be achieved once every 8 seconds, but if you win them again by casting your elementary ability resets, that is, you can't accumulate them like Shenhe can't be 13 and keep you 13 and 8 seconds later, you go back to casting elemental and you have 26 stacks. You can not only have 13 and 8 seconds plus 13, but in rotation, 16. If you can go in and out with CITLALI on a team, let's say quick swap, of which I explained that they come in and out because maybe you can activate this 8 and 8 16 twice, but good. 13 stacks, basically those stacks are gonna hit the character in the field. For each stack a bonus of 200% of the master's degree of CITLALI as harm inflicted, that is to say a say. The set of R of old that uses, for example, gaming that makes very few hits but very strong. And then it doesn't burn the stacks of the son of yesteryear because it's like a son of yesteryear, better to say here. And 100% as you see, with the Cone Vas hit, the triple mastery lead to more mastery, best shield, and to more what? Mastery, more damage inflicted here. What happens that you could not carry, for example, a carry then D. Make many multi-hits like a Tartaglia or a Nuvilette playing the team, for example, Tartaglia, CITLALI Xianling Bennett, that would be the international, but putting CITLALI instead of Kazuha, allowing you to freeze the enemies so that Xianling melts some blows, but mainly a Mavuika that has normal attacks like DPS is something like Arlecchino. And a few normal, very strong. Or for example, a gaming that does very few strokes as well, but that melts them because it would benefit greatly from this here, and apart from CITLALI, when you're in this, you know it's the other half of the constellations of NATLAN characters that when you're in mount mode, you're going to consume 45% less Phlogisto in summary. Not this is the cone, and here already melted sticks gets very interesting, the thing mainly for Gamine. For the Archon Pyro, for Arlecchino and Clear, these stacks are the character in the field is a pain. Because this would no longer benefit if I want to play a melt with Xianling out of the field and we say, IF, C2. CITLALI wins 125 mastery, both for the shield and for the makes 1, and then the character. That is covered by a shield, i.e. the character in the field, i.e. Diluc Gamine. L'Archonte Piro, maybe an Arlecchino, will also see what application capacity has CITLALI, so that the enemies are always frozen. They earn 250 of mastery, just like a Bufo of Niyu. Nahida here already gets interesting, the thing, and additionally you will also give a shield in E. Multiplayer that these many C2 of many characters after shield in area. And then lastly, your 20% resistance reduction talent evolves and passes 40% resistance reduction. Pyro and Hydro clear a field. Hydro, even if you can benefit from Cone, cannot benefit. The C2 Hydro of the 250 masters, because the Hydro in the field is not going to be melting or anything, and vaporizing is not going to vaporize because the team is going to melt with the Pyro, but a Pyro in field that will benefit from the 250 masters degree of the C2 of the Cone stacks, because it pastes few. It's like a Diluc descending a descending gaming a Mavuika, a melted Arlecchino, with CITLALI to enable you more equipment if you could, because it is clothes, but it is 4. Carries Pyro that apply little Pyro on Ze Hu Tao. No Hu Tao applies many strokes. The combo is 2. Normal. A load and all the blows applied by Hu Tao are strong. Hu Tao applies a lot Pyro with each hit, and Hu Tao can't benefit from this, but as I say, Diluc Gaming Arlecchino and Mavuka. Mainly yes, and although the stacks of the Constellation and Constellation 2, the buffos do not. Even with CITLALI and Xianling or Mavuika doing Xianling out of the field. And if you go with the Nubillet as Bennett the attack, you don't care Bennett if you buff Ayato to Tartaglia. Bennett doesn't. I'd snort the attack on Nubillet because he doesn't care to put a Salonen in, for example, and you could play a team of Vilonen Mavuika CITLALI and a Nubillet in field, and you make a team a kind of Xianling melts would not benefit from the Cone and the C2A, Xianling a Mavuika out of the field. Doing this the team would work, but mainly the Cone, the C2 is for a carry Pyro. Within the field that applies little, I repeat Diluc Gaming Mavuika, and perhaps Arlecchino Nu. Compositions of melted, then final conclusion is strong for now, is dedicated, support is. Say it's just a few compositions as you can check, and maybe it enables Chero equipment that. Melt teams that in the future there may be more combinations to play this theme. It's also, and maybe some burning and melting of cryo, let's say fill because melted we could resistance to cryo because maybe it doesn't benefit that much, but it's going to give you the Master's Bufo, and the damage inflicted on the character in field of Cone and C2, with which to finish the Cone and the C2. Let's also say they'd benefit some kind of Ryosley team plus a burn. More CITLALI, though I don't know to what extent it could harm or steal the milk. The comments you think seem interesting, and I think it's going to go to the Archon. that the Archon is played melted unlike Arlecchino, that is played with Fiorina Kazuha, and we will see also, because I believe and already to conclude as conclusion that they can distinguish Arlecchino of Mavuika no longer only as Novilet and Voila, and they are totally different carries Hydro. They can also distinguish them by making that, although to this day already confirmed in the beta Mavuika. Melds 1 in 3 hits just like Arlecchino, the same ICD can make Mavuika apply. Much less pyro with the normal ones, and if it can melt but Arlecchino applies less than Hu Tao. But more than gaming with its normal and capable attacks, Arlecchino cannot melt and can only lie. Do it Mavuika, and so they make you throw for CITLALI. That Mavuika can play this team. To melt it and Arlecchino not and differentiate them, the latter is a speculation but can. It happens because it's what usually makes little more joysticks let me think about the ball. In the comments, yes for now, only for this kind of melt equipment is very specific, but we might be interested in it. It might surprise us and it might have things to do with us. Change the paradigm and the way you see the game, and little more you take care of having very good day. Don't hear many thanks for all the love and support and Chito Granny people. For algorithm, those who have reached the end cow KO.